what today is? Do you know the date? Every day I look at myself in the mirror. And every day I remember.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Morose Project. I'm Brad Rosen.
I'm Aaron Moore.
Hey man.
What up, bitch?
Actually, for once I have something cool that happened. Over the weekend I went to Tulsa and saw one of my favorite comedians, Ron Funches.
Name sounds familiar.
He was on Undateable, which is a show that I've mentioned previously. And he's been on At Midnight a lot. He's won the most times on At Midnight.
Nice.
And it's funny, one of the times, he's a big wrestling fan, and one of the times he was on and he won, he had like a special belt made, and it said like At Midnight Champion and everything. It was really funny. But so anyway, I drove all the way to Tulsa. I'd never been to Tulsa before. That was interesting. Our buddy Jacob went with us, or went with me. You didn't go. You
Yeah, no.
had work in the morning.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, we didn't get back till like 3 in the morning. So, and you had to work at 5, so that would not have been good for you.
Could have technically made it, but
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, he was hilarious, like even funnier. And I've heard his first CD, which I'm sure you can find on Spotify or Pandora or something, and everybody should check him out because he's really funny. But he was even funnier this time, and he had like 3 openers who were all really funny. And I got to meet him afterwards, which was the best part. Like, I've been to comedy shows, and most of the time you can meet the people afterwards, but most of the time that's at a comedy club. This was like more like a concert venue, I think, or something. Because apparently there was a whole comedy festival that went on in Tulsa, and he was just the headliner of Saturday night. I didn't check out, I only went specifically to see him, so I didn't check out anybody else. But to be fair, the show was at like 10, we didn't leave till like 7, so, we pretty much only got there in time to check out him anyway. It took us like 2 hours and 45 minutes, I think, to get there. Which wasn't horrible. It's just unfortunately in Oklahoma there's not a lot of these things I like to call street lights, so it's very dark for long stretches of road. And then even there was a part where there were street lights and they were all off, so it didn't really matter. But it was really fun, and like I said, I got to meet him afterwards. I was a little worried we weren't going to get to, and then I saw him off to the side where I think was like a VIP area or something, because there were some people that were sitting there in the during the show, and I saw him there, and I was waiting for most of the crowd to go away anyway, so it would be easier to get out of the parking and everything. But as soon as I saw him, I was like, not leaving until I know for sure. There's no way I'm meeting him. And then luckily he came out like a minute or 2 later, and I didn't tell Jacob until I saw him, but when I saw him come out, I looked over at Jacob and I was like, I don't want to be that guy, but if nobody else does, I will be that guy. Luckily somebody else stopped him first, so I just waited after they were done talking to him and talked to him and took a picture and everything. It was really cool. He's a really cool dude, which I pretty much figured he was, but every once in a while you might, but of course in that kind of setting, I would assume, unless they, were drinking or something, they would probably be pretty cool. It's not like they're gonna specifically come out after a show and meet fans and be an asshole. That would be kind of dumb. It's, one thing to bother them if they're out getting dinner or something. It's another thing to be like, hey, I just watched your show, I paid for a ticket and everything, so can you talk to me for a couple minutes? And obviously if he minded, he wouldn't have come out, so,
Sure.
But yeah, it was really fun. So you have an interesting story.
I do.
That I've only seen very little about, but I was intrigued. This is a local story.
Yeah, and there's really not much to it. I don't think they released a lot of details. But I was working, I think it was that next morning,
Yeah, I
Um,
believe that's when I saw it on Facebook.
or it was Sunday, I believe.
Yeah.
And I got off work and was going to my car and I saw cop lights. So me being the nosy piece of shit I am, kept looking, and I saw that there was 2 more patrol vehicles. There was also an ambulance, and I was like, oh shit, it went down. And I went back inside the store because I needed to get some shit, and one of our friends ran up to me. He's like, hey yo, somebody died. And I was like, bullshit. Bullshit. This is a friend who I wouldn't say has the most reliable resources.
Uh-huh. Is this a coworker or
Mhm.
just... Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so upon further investigation, turns out that there was a dude who actually died in our parking lot 4 fucking days prior.
Yeah, when I read that part, I was like, how did nobody notice? And I read that eventually it said, you know, like, people
Noticed
called
the
because of the
stench.
smell. And I was just like... And granted, it's not been as hot lately as it had been, but it was still in, like, the high 80s, low 90s. I still would have think he would have started to stink up for 4 days.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know, I would just think, like, granted, you know, I was never ever looking for stuff, but I would see when people were just chilling in their cars or whatever, so I would think after a while people would be like, hey, that dude's just been chilling in his car for a couple
4 fucking
days.
days.
Like, somebody want to check on him?
Yeah.
But-
yeah, I guess, like, it was, fucking body was bloated and shit. It
Yeah.
was so gross. And I unfortunately didn't get to see it. I wish I would have.
It's probably good that you didn't.
Probably.
Probably would have, like, thrown up or something. I
Yeah.
can imagine.
Maybe.
Or, like, if you just smelled it, you would most definitely throw up.
That was fucking crazy, man. Like, 4 fucking days.
Yeah, I was just genuinely surprised when I read that I was like, how did nobody notice?
Yeah, and also, like, he wasn't, like, a local. He's from out of town.
Yeah.
Which was even, I don't know, that was weird.
Well,
I'm surprised we hadn't,
fun times.
I'm surprised nothing else has been released.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe they, like, got a hold of the guy's family and they didn't want anything else released, but I don't know, I think if he'd been missing for 4 days and family would have been looking for him, but maybe they didn't have anybody look here or something, I don't know.
He doesn't have a family.
That's possible too. Right on. Well, that's crazy. I don't know what else to say about that other than how could nobody notice? Like,
For
and
4 fucking days.
and like he wasn't in like the very back, was he?
No,
he was
like-
probably like up front or in the middle or something.
It was the middle aisle parking lot.
Yeah.
Parking lot. And, I mean, he was probably halfway down there.
Yeah, that's, you know, plenty of people come and go, I'm sure.
It was Walmart.
Yeah.
This is
And,
crazy.
like, I don't know, it's weird because, you know, people always notice when, like, and I'm not trying to say that it's bad that they do, but they always notice if, like, a child or a dog is left in a hot car, but nobody noticed that homeboy was just stewing it up in there for 4 days.
Fucking hotboxing himself.
I guess, man, that's crazy, though. So, we watched some more Halloween.
Some. We watched 5.
4.
4. We
Yeah.
watched. Yeah, 4.
We've watched 6 altogether, but 4 in addition to the 2 that we talked about last week. And I'm gonna say this up front. 3 of these 4 are probably my least favorite, with the first one we're gonna talk about being my absolute least favorite.
Which I really liked it.
And, like, I don't know, that just perplexes me on so many levels because it made no sense. It was ridiculous and like, I don't know. So, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, came out a year after the second one.
Mm-hmm.
John Carpenter produced it. He wrote and directed the first one, and then he wrote and produced the second one, and somebody else directed. This one he only produced, he didn't direct or anything. But he specifically said he would only do a third one if it kept the ending of Halloween 2 and Michael Myers was dead, which is why the only time you see Michael Myers in this movie is
That
in
shameless plug-in.
is when they're doing a horror movie marathon, and one of the horror movies they happen to play is the original Halloween, and Michael Myers pops up on the TV for like a second or two. I don't even know where to begin. I mean, the first thing I wrote is when they play the song 8 more days till Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Like, the first thing I wrote is the song is gonna get annoying real fast. And they play it a bunch, but I don't know. It's not, like, it is annoying, but it's not as annoying as I thought it would be. And then I noticed the woman who plays his ex-wife, who, for like a good portion of the movie, until he says she's his ex-wife, I thought was just his regular wife, because he just walks in, you know, like, they don't seem like they're not married.
Yeah, they didn't act that way.
But the woman who plays the ex-wife was in the first Halloween movie. She was Annie, one of the friends, the one who was the daughter of the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
Who, as I pointed out in the second one, her eyes were open, even though she closed her eyes when she died in the first one. I just thought that was kind of neat. I couldn't quite tell at first just by looking at her, but her voice is exactly the same, and then I looked it up just to be sure, and it was totally her. So I thought that was kind of cool. And also, Jamie Lee Curtis plays the voice of, like, when the guy calls 911 or something at some point in the movie, which also I thought was kind of cool. So at the beginning of the movie, there's this guy who's, like, running away from the bad people or whatever, and he gets to the hospital, and they put him in room 13, and I was just like, oh, just to make it obvious, he's still gonna die. And, the next thing I have here is that they, to rub it in, this movie has nothing to do with the previous movies. They show a commercial for the first one, and then later they actually show a clip from the movie. Blankenship is a name that pops up a lot in these movies. It's actually mentioned a few times in that one, and then it's the name of a character in the sixth one, which is the one we just watched before recording.
Mm-hmm.
This dude, like, I don't get this dude. He's like, he's a crazy drunk, one, but he's also like, everybody wants to have sex with him.
Yeah.
Like, the coroner wants to have sex with him. The woman who was the daughter of the guy that died at the beginning, like, wants to have sex with him after just barely meeting him and stuff, and, like, I don't know. But also, I just thought it was funny that, like, they were going on what they said was not a very long trip to the manufacturer of the mask company, and he brought a 6-pack of beer with him, like, you know, just so they made it abundantly clear he was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
As I wrote down, he's Dr. Drunk. I don't even remember his name, I just called him Dr. Drunk the whole time.
I wrote him down as Dr. Daddy, but his name is Dr. Chalice.
And then they get to a motel, and everybody in that town is terrible at driving. They all almost nail him with their cars, which I thought was funny. And then this town is, like, run by the dude who owns the mask company, which is really weird. And, like, they have a 6 o'clock curfew, which is, like, before it even gets dark or anything.
Yeah.
And, like,
even the cats had to go inside.
yeah. And, like, when they played the the curfew is now in effect, I just kept getting like flashbacks of watching The Purge because it seemed very similar. And then after the curfew, both Dr. Drunk and the woman he's with are out gallivanting, and nobody says like, "Hey, there's a curfew, get inside," or whatever. But then he runs into a bum. I'm like, the bum goes, like, he's like, "I didn't mean to scare you." He's just like, and he was, Dr. Drunk just left a liquor store where he
Bought a bottle.
he bought a bottle. And the bum goes, "I saw that bottle and thought it looked a little heavy." And then he fucking just shares his alcohol with a bum, which, like, I mean, it'd be one thing if he had like his own cup or an empty bottle, but like he just fucking sharing it
Hey.
with lips all over it and everything.
The bum stated he doesn't have any diseases.
Are you gonna take his word for it though? And then the only other thing I wrote, I mean, this whole movie is ridiculous. We'll get to the thing that really makes no sense to me. But Dr. Drunk and the woman have sex at least twice before he asks how old she is, which
Yeah.
I thought was a little creepy and funny.
No, but you knew she was old enough because she was living on her own.
Yeah, I guess, but still, like, I don't know. I mean, he's clearly in his, like, well, not clearly, but to me, he looked like he was at least in his late 30s, early 40s, and she was in her 20s at most. So, I don't know. But, so the premise of this is that this evil mask maker has these microchips for the masks that, like, a woman says are falling off of the masks, which is kind of dumb considering that's how he plans to kill everybody. But, like, it's just, these microchips somehow, like, shoot lasers that then fill the kids' mouths with bugs and snakes. And, like, none of it just made sense at all. And then, like, this is a teeny tiny shop that's, like, in Northern California, but they show that these masks go, like, everywhere in the country. And then what's even crazy about that is they're all, like, not good masks, and there's only 3. There's a witch, a skeleton, and a jack-o'-lantern. And, like, but everybody wanted those masks, even though, like, their costumes made no sense with the addition of the mask. Yeah. They all had to have them, which I just thought was hilarious. But then, and then I'll admit I fell asleep for, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 minutes, but, like, he also had robots, like, everybody who was working for him was a robot. And then later, he turned the woman into a robot, and she, like, tried to kill Dr. Drunk when he was trying to stop the evil plan and everything. And I don't know, it was weird. And then at the end, he, like, somehow, I don't know, he must have called the mayor of Hollywood or something, but he like, calls people, and he's trying to stop all, this ad that's supposed to play in the middle of the movie marathon or whatever, and it's supposed to, that's what triggers the masks to kill all the kids, and then the bugs and snakes that come out of the kids are supposed to kill the parents, and I still don't know how, like, who he got on the phone with to stop that from happening, but, like, they stopped. It's on 3 channels, I guess, which is probably in the 80s. They probably only had 3 or 4 channels, so that makes sense. But it's on 3 channels, and it stops on 2 of them, but doesn't on the last one. Which, I mean, still, probably, you know, granted the one kid kept flipping the channel, but I would assume he probably saved a fair amount of lives by stopping 2 of the 3 channels. But at the same time, like, there's, like, I don't know, 6 different time zones in the United States, and he's in California, so I'm sure there's a lot of people that just watched that and weren't saved at all.
Probably.
But I don't know. It just, I feel like maybe if it wasn't a Halloween movie, like what part of the Halloween franchise, I might not. It's still really silly, but I might not hate it as much. But when you watch all these movies thinking they're all about Michael Myers, and then you come across this one, and he has nothing to do, nothing to do with the movie, it's a severe disappointment. What were your thoughts on the movie?
Oh, I really enjoyed it. I like the idea of using the masks to kill basically everyone.
Yeah.
You know,
See,
starts
that
with just kids, but
that idea isn't terrible, but the bugs and snakes is what makes no sense to me. And like, is the dude a witch, or like, I don't get why it was called Season of the Witch. Like, I don't know.
because they were using druidic magic.
Were they?
Yeah,
Maybe I missed that part.
they grabbed they had like the Stonehenge and stuff.
Yeah, I totally missed the Stonehenge part. But okay, what else did you?
I had a couple problems with it, like when the first dude died, or yeah, homeboy went out, lit himself on fire in the car, and it
Yeah.
immediately exploded. Like that's not a thing.
What? That's how it happens in every movie.
Yeah, it's still not
Also,
a
that
thing.
whole scene was ridiculous because he kills the guy and the blood
It
is
was
like
orange.
orange.
Yeah,
And then friggin' he's walking at a, like, not even at a brisk pace. He's pretty much just, walking like as slow as possible. And then Dr. Drunk is running after him, but he never even comes close to catching up to him until he gets in the car. And then the doctor doesn't keep running after him. When he gets in the car, he just stops and he's like, "Hey!" And the guy lights himself on fire.
Yeah.
And it turns out that guy was a robot. But what else did you have?
That's pretty much it.
Right on. So yeah, that is definitely my least favorite one. But like I said, it is silly, but mostly it's because Michael's not in it, and these movies are supposed to be about Michael. So then there's Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. In fact, the next 3 all have Michael Myers in the title because they want to make sure everybody knows, like, hey, he's in these ones. This was 5 years after 3, but because they immediately acted like 3 never happened, and took 1 and 2 took place on the same night. This movie is essentially 10 years later. And at the beginning, they're transferring Michael from some, like, hospital, like, it's like a hospital jail. I didn't quite get what it was exactly.
It's probably like a max security.
Yeah, probably. But, like, they go in to get him, the 2 transfer people, and they hear somebody screaming, and one of the transfer people is all like, "Jesus," and then the guard who, like, is taking them to get Michael is like, "Jesus ain't got nothing to do with this place." So then, they take Michael, and of course he wakes up and he kills everybody in the van, and the van crashes, and then Dr. Loomis finds out that they transferred him. So he's gonna go to the hospital where they were supposed to transfer him, but then he finds out that the ambulance crashed and they only found 4 of the 5 bodies, and nobody knows for sure that Michael's the one whose body is missing, but Dr. Loomis is pretty sure he is, so he immediately, as he always does, decides to go to Haddonfield to try and stop Michael. And I just wrote, there's a part where he's at a gas station and he, like, sees Michael and he's trying to shoot him, and then he, like, shoots some gas tanks and, like, the place starts to blow up. And he's running away, like, before the explosion gets too big. And I wrote, Dr. Loomis got hops because he jumps real far, real high to get away from the explosion right quick. And that was pretty good for an old man. I thought, anyway. Yeah, I'm sure it was, but still. And then this is really the only other thing I said. Granted, there's definite other problems, but this bugged me. This dude is the second tallest guy to play Michael. The tallest so far, but the guy who played him in the remake and the sequel to the remake is taller. But like the whole movie, he seemed so short. Like Michael seemed like tiny.
Mm-hmm.
Like it seemed like the mask never fit him right. It seemed like the overalls never fit him right. And I guess you could say that's because he stole them from another guy. So maybe the guy he stole them from was bigger. But I don't know. The dude just seemed really tiny to me, and that bugged me quite a bit. And this one, just for anybody who's listening who either hasn't seen the movies or doesn't remember what happens, this one's about Laurie's daughter. Michael's trying to he finds out about her somehow, and he's trying to get her, because the story is that Laurie and her husband died in a car crash and left her an orphan, and now she's living with foster parents and a stepsister. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got about that one. What did you think of that one?
It's probably my favorite so far. Possibly tied with the sixth one. I really liked it. The actress that played Jamie looked really familiar. But I think I had just seen it before.
Yeah.
A long ass time ago.
I like her. Like she's in the next one, and then they bring her back for the remake. She plays a different character, but I really like that actress, and I usually hate child actors.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked her a lot in both of these movies.
I thought she was kind of annoying in the second one.
Yeah, a little bit, but that was kind of because they wrote her as, like, mute, which I thought was dumb. And then, like, halfway through, she just started talking like normal. And after that, I thought it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Do you have anything else to say about it?
No.
Okay. So then Halloween 5 was released. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, was released a year later, and it takes place a year later. At the end of 4, Jamie stabs her stepmom or foster mom or whatever you want to call her. But they make it seem like in this movie she didn't die, because they mention her mom a couple times.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming she didn't die anyway. That or the dad got remarried pretty fast. But so Jamie is now in like I don't know. It's an institute for children. Yeah, but like it's not a mental institution, is it? Because none of the other kids seem to have mental disorders.
Well, we don't really know.
Other than kids. Billy is probably retarded, but we'll get to Billy in a minute.
Other than Billy, we don't really know any of the other children there.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But so we see that at the end of the last one, Michael, like, fell down a well or something, and he winds up at some random dude who lives on the river by a lake or whatever, at his house. Mm-hmm. And the dude takes care of him for a year, and then, like, just inside, his biological clock must tell him, like, oh, it's Halloween, so he kills the dude.
That took care of him.
And
for a year. Yeah,
probably, like, fed him and made sure he didn't die. Granted, Michael probably can't die, but either way, he took care of him for a year. Then Michael just goes, "All right, see ya," and like kills him real quick.
Yeah.
And then Jamie seems to have some sort of psychic connection with Michael that they never really explain, other than to say that because she touched him at the end of the last one, which is what they kind of hinted at was the reason why she stabbed her stepmom. I guess that's also how they share this weird psychic connection.
That's so weird though, because like Michael touched her a few times.
Yeah, but
throughout the movie.
I don't know. Maybe it was different because he was about to die when she touched him or something. I don't know. But so I noted that the burn on Dr. Loomis's face looked a lot more realistic than it did in the fourth one.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next note I wrote is, I hate the kid who plays Billy so much. And then I looked him up on IMDb, and this is the only movie he was ever in. So I wrote, there's a good reason why this is the only movie he ever acted in.
I didn't have a problem with him.
I don't know what it was. He was just so annoying to me. Like, and maybe it's more so the character than the actor, but I just hated him so much. Like, every time it was possible he might die, I was sad that he didn't end up dying. And then I wrote that other than 3, this might be my least favorite. And then, granted, I ended up being wrong, because with the next one we watched, they made more sense of it, but I put nothing ever really happens or makes sense with the Man in Black. He just kind of shows up at the end and kills all the cops, and then takes what's weird is, like, in this one Jamie's left alone and they've already taken Michael, but then at the beginning of the 6th one they show that, like, they took her too, I guess. But I don't know. There's a lot of issues with this one. It's been a while since I looked it up, but I feel like the writer-director wanted to make a totally different movie than the producers wanted him to make.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, it seems like he got to do most of what he wanted to do, but most of what he wanted to do didn't make a lot of sense to me. And it didn't really fit in with the Halloween mythology. But again, this one is pretty much the same story as 4. He's just trying to kill his niece, Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
But this time they share a psychic connection, and she's able to see him sometimes when he's either about to kill somebody or when he has killed somebody or whatever. And then, but I do love at the end when they drop the chainmail or whatever on Michael, and then fucking Dr. Loomis just goes to town on him with that 2x4. I thought that was pretty cool.
You could see the bends and the 2x4 after he's hitting him.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Because he raises it up after he's done, and you can see it's like bowed from him hitting him.
That's funny. What else did you think about this one?
I just wanted to know who the fuck that dude was that was wearing all black.
Yeah. That was weird, because, like, he wasn't even in the whole movie, and then he just shows up at the very end. Like, I kind of feel like maybe the director was trying to make it to where they'd have to bring him back so he could explain it. I also feel like it was just, like, he just wanted a surprise ending, so he just did that. But he didn't know what he was going to do with the people after.
Well, he showed up a few times during the movie.
Did he? I only remember him at the very end.
That's because you were on your phone most of the time.
That's fair, but also, to be fair, I've seen all these movies, with the exception of 3, a million times. I really don't remember him showing up other than at the very end.
Yeah, he went over to, that first chick he killed. The blonde chick.
Oh, yeah.
Went to her house afterwards.
Interesting. So, alright, anything else about that one?
Mm.
So the next one, Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, is 1995, 6 years after Halloween 5, but they done messed up the timeline because Jamie was 9 in 5.
Right.
So at most she would be 16 in 6. So we'll give her the benefit of the doubt, maybe within these 6 years, maybe like she was about to turn 10 or something. And no, because they all take place on Halloween, so obviously the most she could be is 6 years older. It's not like she could, it's not, if her birthday was in November, whatever. So yeah, the oldest she could be, or she should be, I guess I should say, is 15. But this woman they got playing Jamie is a grown-ass woman. She's at least in her 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So that really annoyed me.
The story could be, though, that she was that young when she got impregnated, but they didn't want to portray her, or didn't want to show her character being that young.
I guess, but I feel like, and granted, this is the version we watched is a version called the producer's cut. It's like a very rare version that wasn't available. I think you could get like bootleg copies or something, and it was on YouTube at one point, but it wasn't made available legally until the Blu-ray came out a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I had never seen this version, and as I mentioned multiple times too when we were watching it, it's actually way different than the theatrical version. Because in the theatrical version, I'm pretty sure they blatantly state that she's like 21 or 22.
Do they?
Whereas obviously in this one they didn't, but she still appeared to be older than she was, which is also why I assume they got a different actress, because they wanted her make her
Appear younger.
at least appear older, if not
older.
actually be older.
Mm-hmm.
But so the first thing is Jamie dies like 3 minutes max into the theatrical version, where she's alive for at least half of the movie. Granted, she doesn't do or say anything after the beginning, but she's alive for like half of the movie before they kill her. And in the theatrical version, her death is more of a bummer, because it's kind of like we watched 2 whole movies of her constantly getting away from Michael, and then she dies at the beginning of 6. So it's a lot like that little girl from Aliens, who, like, the whole movie, they're trying to save her, and then at the very beginning of Alien 3, she dies. I forget the girl's name right now, but I wrote that because it was very similar to me.
Mm.
And then I just thought it was interesting. I don't know exactly how it happened, but they let a fan of the movies write this one, and which in a way is cool, but in another way is not cool, because he specifically focused on stuff that I don't think other fans would have. Like, he tried to give Michael a more, what's the word? A more, like, it's like a cult or whatever that, like, somehow has power over Michael. So I guess, like, a more druid type power or whatever than him just being like a monster like he was in all the other movies. And even at one point in the movie, Dr. Loomis says, "I thought Michael was a monster, but you are," and he's talking to the dude who ends up being the guy in black, who in this version he actually does a lot more, but in the theatrical version, I think he pops up like once, and then you find out that he's the same guy that he ends up being in this movie, but that dude's in it a lot less in the theatrical version than he is in this version. So I don't know, I feel like he focused on the wrong stuff, but like he also had callbacks, because again, there's a woman who's named Blankenship and other stuff, so because it was written by a fan, it had callbacks to the other movies. He also brought back Tommy Doyle from the original, which I thought was kind of cool. He was played by Paul Rudd, which was funny, because This is one of his first roles. Like, they say introducing in the opening credits, but I'm pretty sure Clueless came out before this movie. So it's not really an introduction. But, and then also I got, early in the movie, the mother of our main character, or one of our main characters, is pouring orange juice for everybody. And she pours, like, the smallest amount possible into the glasses. And so I just wrote, I hate in movies when people don't even fill glasses halfway full. Because it happens a lot, and it's annoying. So then, in this one, in the theatrical version, Jamie has a baby, but they never tell you who the baby is. Like, obviously it's her baby, but they never tell you who's the father. Whereas in this one, for some reason, they make Michael the father. Like, I guess the cult people forced Michael to get her pregnant or whatever, which was really weird. But, so the whole movie, basically, because Michael gets to Jamie pretty early, Michael's trying to get the baby, because allegedly if he kills the baby, then all his bloodline will be dead, and he doesn't have to be evil anymore. So Jamie leaves the baby at a bus station, and Tommy finds it, like, the next morning, and I just wrote down, like, the baby, and the baby was crying for most of the beginning of the movie, but then he shut up for quite a while, and didn't start screaming again until Paul Rudd conveniently walked in, which I just thought that was funny. And then I also wrote, because a lot of people don't die by the butcher knife in this movie especially, but looking back on it, he doesn't use the butcher knife a lot in most movies. So I thought it was kind of funny that the butcher knife is, like, so iconic with him. And yes, he does use it, but he also uses, like, a hatchet in this one. He friggin' pins a lady to the wall with a random spike hanging out of the wall.
Why the fuck is there one spike?
He does stab the asshole dad, but the guy really dies because he also gets electrocuted.
Well, he stabbed him with, like, a crowbar.
Did he? I thought he did use the knife. But then he did slit the one guy's throat with a knife, and then he stabbed the girlfriend. And in this version, he stabbed Jamie, even though technically Jamie doesn't die till the man in black shoots her in the head.
Mm-hmm.
But in the theatrical version, he, like, pushes her on some farm equipment or whatever, and, like, that stabs her but doesn't kill her, and then he, like, turns it on, and that's what kills her, which is, like, how you know she dies right away at the beginning of that one, but she doesn't die right away in this version. And then I wrote, because in the last couple movies, Michael was just kind of leaving a mess everywhere, even though in the first two, especially the first one, he always would move bodies and stuff. And so I wrote, Michael finally remembered to clean up after himself. Which I just thought it was funny that he was starting to do that again. And then I wrote, because when the dad comes home, all the lights in the house are on, or at least all the lights downstairs. Yeah. And so I wrote, people in these movies have a terrible habit of not only leaving lights on, but leaving every light on. Because, like, all the lights are on in the first Halloween, like, all those kids, those punk teenagers leave all the damn lights on. And I guess I didn't notice it as a kid, because I was just like, whatever. But now that I'm an adult and I have to pay electricity, I notice that they leave all the lights on.
And they leave fucking doors open, too.
Yeah, they do that a lot. But then I also wrote, this is the first time someone who played Michael plays him again. The guy, and he doesn't look as bad in this one, but you can still kind of tell stuff doesn't fit him quite properly. The guy from 4 came back and played Michael in this one. And then that doesn't happen again until the Rob Zombie version, in which case Rob Zombie's, both movies have the same actor play Michael. And then, I was telling you this, but the theatrical ending is way different from the the way the movie ends. Like, the Man in Black and his group of weirdos, like, they're pretty much just evil doctors in the theatrical version, and they kidnap the baby, and they, like, have it in some room, and they make it seem like they're gonna perform surgery on it or something, and so Michael goes to the hospital, and he murders all the doctors, just so they can't mess with the baby, because I guess the baby's his, he wants to kill the baby.
He has to.
Well, according to this version, but in that version they don't make that. They briefly mention it, but they don't make it as they don't make it as much of a like, oh, he needs to do this, more than, oh, he's just psycho and this is what he does for whatever reason. But so in the theatrical version, after he murders all the doctors, the main girl and Paul Rudd get the baby, and they're like running away or whatever, and then they hide, and Paul Rudd somehow gets a big ass pipe, and he just beats the fuck out of Michael with it, and Michael starts like bleeding green, which never made a lot of sense and still doesn't to me. And then they run into Dr. Loomis, and they like all get in the car and are like they're like, where should we go? And he's like, just get as far away from here as you can, and blah, blah, blah. And then they offer for him to come with them. And then he's like, no, I've got some business to attend to here. And then it just ends. And I don't know if the ending changed because they changed a lot of the other stuff in the movie, or if the ending changed because the actor who plays Dr. Loomis died shortly after filming. So maybe they didn't want the ending to be the same way it was, because they kind of make it seem like he goes back in and like dies, or maybe kills himself or something. But in this version, that happens sooner. Like, they don't beat up Michael or whatever. They basically somehow get druid power over him, and he just stops, and they leave, and Dr. Loomis goes back inside, and the guy who was the main druid or whatever, the Man in Black, is he's in Michael's overalls and mask, and Dr. Loomis pulls the mask off and sees that it's him and not Michael, and the guy's just like, he's your problem now or whatever, and then the Mark of Thorn pops up on Dr. Loomis's wrist, and he just starts screaming, really overactingly screaming.
Yeah,
and then Michael is in his Man in Black outfit, and he just walks away, and you know it's Michael because he's still wearing the same shitty shoes. He's not wearing those fancy pants cowboy boots.
And he has the burns on his hand.
Yeah, which we could see well, but you might not have been able to see well, like, in a dimly lit theater, not in, back in the 80s, or the 90s. Whereas now we're watching it on a nice HD TV and Blu-ray. But maybe, granted, nobody saw this version anyway.
Yeah.
But it might not have been as obvious if they had been able to at that time. But that being said, and I think a lot of it has to do with Paul Rudd, but this is probably, other than the first one, this is probably my favorite of the ones we've watched so far. But I did, as all of them, even though I love all these movies except for 3, I had some problems with it. But I actually, certain aspects I kind of like more in this producer's version, and others I liked more in the theatrical. I kind of wish there was like a third version that like took the best parts from the theatrical and the best part from the producers and put it all in one movie. But overall, it wasn't bad. It was interesting because so much of it was different from the theatrical version that it was almost like watching a new movie for me. Like, obviously, the kills were the same, and, like, the characters were the same, but characters were in it more, or, they had more of a story or whatever, so that was pretty cool. What did you think?
I liked it. I like that had Paul Rudd in it.
Yeah. I love Paul Rudd.
I don't know, minus like the cheesiness of how they went about it, which granted, I love cheese
Yeah.
in my horror. But I don't know, I felt like the cultists looked like shitty little ninjas
Yeah.
as opposed to actual cultists.
Yeah, that was funny when you mentioned that to me. One other thing I will say, I like cheese in horror movies, but I like it when, like, the whole movie is cheese. I don't like it when the movie's trying to take itself seriously most of the time, and then they throw in something really cheesy. It's like, be one or the other, don't be both, because most movies can't pull both off. And it's okay to have a joke now and then, but not to, like, be like, oh, we're super serious, and then have something really stupid happen, which kind of happens in this. Nothing major, but definitely a little bit. What else?
That's it.
Right on. So I forgot my songbook, so unfortunately we don't have a song to go out on today. This actually ended up being a lot longer than I expected it to be, which is fine. That's what happens when you have 4 movies to discuss. Now I see why they only do 1 movie in that podcast, because 1 movie takes long enough to talk about, let alone 4. But I will go out on these 2 notes. Joe Manganiello is going to play Deathstroke. And I believe they said it was for the Batman movie. They might not have clarified whether or not he's going to be in Justice League as well, but he is going to be in Batman. And his character's name was Alcide on True Blood. He was the werewolf. Because I couldn't remember his name last time. And then also, we talked about not too long ago our love of Donald Glover, and he's got a new show out called Atlanta. I think they have 3 episodes out, but only the first one's available on YouTube. I watched it. It's really good. I think you'd like it. And if people like the shit that we like, I'm sure they'd like it too. It's very interesting, and it seems to be getting a lot of praise from TV critics and stuff, and, you know, they probably know more than I do, or at least they like to think they do. And there was one other really cool thing that I read right before we started recording, and now I can't remember, and I'm gonna feel so angry because it's breaking news, so it would have been kind of special to have, whereas now if we talk about it next week, it'll be a week old. But is there anything else you want to talk about or anything?
No.
Alright, well, I really wish I could remember that other thing that I wanted to talk about. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. Next time we'll have more to talk about than just movies. I think maybe we'll only do 2 next time, just because I think it'd kind of work out better, because the next 2 are the last 2 in the continuity, and then the 2 after that are the remake and its sequel, so it might be weird to try and do all 4 in one episode. We didn't watch all 4, but I just say we wouldn't talk about all 4 at the same time. But yeah, since I haven't mentioned it in a while, everybody should check out our Twitter, twitter.com/MoroseProject. If somehow you only listen to us on YouTube and don't have our page liked on Facebook, like our page on Facebook, facebook.com/MoroseProject. Email is moroseproject69@gmail.com, because we're children. And I believe that is it for this week. So for the Morose Project, I'm Brad Rosen.
I'm A.A. Ron.
And always remember, fat guys try harder.
Take it to church.
Girl, what's your problem? 'Cause I know it's hard sometimes. Maybe just give it some time. Oh, honey, now, girl, we can solve them. If you just give me some time, I can open up your mind. If you let it shine.